Welcome back. I am looking forward to my conversation with today's guests, Louay Toma, who is a senior emergency manager, and Charles Harris, who is a senior public information and communication officer, both with the Office of Emergency Management. Stick around while I talk with them about all of the work that they do and that we hope to never see. So often we think about emergency management in terms of um, natural disasters, how you respond to floods, earthquakes, fires, situations like that you don't anticipate in our county. But of course, your job is to anticipate everything. But you also plan for big crowd events and big person driven happenings. And that's on a lot of people's minds this year because we recently hosted the Super Bowl
Mhm.
and we have FIFA games coming up. And the Office of Emergency Management is integrally part of that work. So maybe start with explaining why. What do y'all have to do with football and soccer?
Well, I mean, for us, it's about serving the community and making sure safety is upmost for all our community. We specifically serve the unincorporated county because we're the county, but our operational area is, every jurisdiction that's in this county, and we want to make sure that they're always the resources are there, they're always supported and safe, and that we're working with our stakeholders, those jurisdictions, to make sure that our community feels that way. So when you're seeing an influx like the World Cup, where you have people not only here in America, but throughout the world, really, it's an
Mhm.
international event coming here, that's going to tax our resources like hospitals, heaven forbid, or infrastructure in general. And we want to make sure that your average Santa Clara County individual and member of the community feels like it's just a regular day if they're not involved, right? So we want to make sure if they need any resources, be it fire, law, EMS, hospital sources, anything, that we've planned and tried our best to make sure those thresholds are available for them, because we're here to manage any emergency that may happen during those events.
That's a really interesting and clear perspective. This is really about managing capacity
Yeah, one of the
as a
aspects.
one of
Yeah.
them. Can you tell me what did it look like
Uh,
before the Super Bowl? What were
uh.
some of the kinds of things that you were specifically preparing for?
Well, I'll let Charles talk about the public information role, but for us specifically, it was some of the things I mentioned to you, and that means bringing in all those partners so we can make sure that on blue sky days, all the resources are available. But if heaven forbid something were to happen that
Mhm.
was negative or whatnot, we're already in a posture where we can respond. It's funny, people say to us, hey, nothing happened, so everything was okay, right? Why did you even have to do this? And I
Uh-huh.
often say, if I take out an umbrella when it's raining, it doesn't. I'm dry. It doesn't mean it didn't rain. It means we were prepared. So it's about being prepared to support the community. And Charles, if you want to talk about the
Yeah, I want to hear about the
yeah, yeah, sure,
communications, but let me just
sure,
understand that a little bit better
please.
first. What does it mean
Mhm.
for our hospitals, for example, to
Yeah,
be prepared for a greater influx? The hospitals are as big as they are. We
yeah,
have the employees that we have.
yeah.
So what does preparation for a big crowd actually mean?
Well, you hit the nail on the head. They're as big as they are. We have the employees that there are, but there's only so many beds, right? And when
Hmm.
you have thousands and thousands of people coming in, taxing the system, heaven forbid,
Hmm.
there's another pandemic or flu, let
Uh-huh.
alone a, a, a disaster or a crisis.
Hmm.
There's only so much space and only so much beds and whatnot
Right.
to support the community, right? So we work with our EMS partners, our public health partners, if it comes down to it, our regional and state partners, to ensure that we're aware of the resources, we're aware of the thresholds. Hey, O'Connor might not be available, but San Luis has the spots or whatnot. So you can direct people and support and see what resources they may need. Our job in the Office of Emergency Management is not to be out there in the field. Those subject matter experts are already doing that. But what resources can we help with to best support them?
Super Bowl, people might think of as just one event, one game, one day. We've been actually activated this whole week because there's a whole series of events around the Super Bowl. But we've got the World Cup coming up. We're actually going to be activated for 21 days, including all 6 game days. And whenever we have these kinds of major events, we need to be in a posture. It is our commitment as a county organization to be ready to respond whatever might happen. That's exactly why we've got dozens of folks right here in our EOC and, of course, hundreds of county staff across different departments who are right there ready in case anything might happen.
But it's great to see all of you and see some of you who even were here when we were activated for Super Bowl 50.
The OC systems and technology all the way down here. This will get you to all of the links.
This event is really unique to us in the sense that we're probably the only entity in the United States that has the opportunity to prepare for a major large event ahead of another major large event starting in June, which is the World Cup. So this really affords us a unique opportunity to practice our skill sets, fine-tune the entire operations, and help prepare us even more for a 21-day activation for World Cup with 6 games in total.
What kinds of things do you communicate to the public, and what kinds of things generally are better that the public doesn't necessarily hear about, if anything falls into that category?
Yeah, definitely. And thank you so much for having us here, Supervisor Ellenberg. So, going back to just the Office of Emergency Management, think about it as the hub of coordination for Silicon Valley. So we are coordinating with all 15 cities, also our, corporate partners, our nonprofit partners. We have a whole network available of people to support any type of disaster, any type of preparedness, a crisis. The Office of Emergency Management can not work alone. We are honestly just the coordination hub, and we make sure that resources are available to the jurisdictions. So for communications, it's really interesting because we're all about preparedness and risks. And we want to make sure that the community knows about the potential risks for Santa Clara County. And it's all different wherever you live within the county. So if you're in South County, you're going to have different potential risks than if you're in Sunnyvale or even Palo Alto. So the communication is very tailored to community members by zip code. So it's very important that they receive the most relevant information to them, and we're not spamming them with information that they might not care about. So there's really a strategy there to make sure that we are out in the field, we are supporting them, and that they know about maybe not everyday issues that they will experience, but it could be them. So everybody says, it's happening over there. Like, did you see the Los Angeles fires? Thank God it's not over here. It could be. So you saw within the Los Angeles fires, there's a lot of different things that they learned lessons from that we learned as well. So just in case something like that does happen within the county, we take that, we work with Los Angeles. What did you learn from this so that we can be better prepared?
Interesting. So there's also a network of offices of emergency management across the state that communicate with each other and learn from each other?
That is correct. And we also do have a operational area joint information system. So that is within all public information officers, any communication staff, even to chief of staffs of different organizations within the county. We all activate together, have coordinated and collaborative information, and we really try to make sure that we have a strategy so it's clear and concise for anybody within the Santa Clara County realm can understand that information.
What's the most
Uh-huh.
stressful emergency that you've had to respond to? Or maybe the emergency wasn't that big, but the most stressful experience you've had in connection with this job?
Yeah, well, so no two emergencies are the same, even if they're the same type of disaster. And this county, and we've actually been complimented by the state of California for this, we actually deploy more than most of the other counties to our neighbors to support when they're needed. And we do this for two part, because I think it's within Santa Clara County's genes to care about others, right? So we go to help our neighbors, and also I guess the selfishness of that is we also learn during those deployments. And so I would say the Paradise Fire was truly a lot for me, just in that everybody that was responding to that was also a victim. You know, I remember having a police officer give me a brief out and crying on my shoulder. You know, you're so tunnel visioned, you forget the humanity sometimes. And so every event has its own complications and obstacles, but if you stay true to serving the community as you all always do, and we always do, you go through it and you do okay. Yeah.
I'm pausing just because I was elected the month before the Paradise Fire started, and I was at a new supervisors institute with two brand new Butte County supervisors.
Yeah, okay.
Who
That must have been quite interesting.
came into office and within weeks were absolutely
inundated.
And I just remember watching them in those first few months, how they navigated this enormous new responsibility that we all took on, and then they had the most massive fire in their county's history.
Yeah, it was something else. And you know, in 2020, which was already, I don't know if you recall, a busy year.
I remember.
We also had one of the largest fires in our county's history, in the SCU fire. And you know, we were right there. In fact, we're still dealing with some of the recovery of helping some of the folks up in unincorporated county, and that's something that OEM also does, all emergency management does, is when the response is done, there's still a community that needs help, and that takes time. And we facilitate and work with partners to best support members of the community after the disaster as well.
And just to add to that, you know, when we're talking about recovery, that is, you know, recovery starts right when the disaster starts.
Absolutely.
So we have to start thinking about the current disaster, what's going on, saving lives, but also how are we going to support the people and give them the resources that they need to start rebuilding their life. So when you're dealing with people, you know, let's just say like the 2023 and 2024 winter storms, you know, Gilroy was completely flooded, you know, and we were able to get intel and save lives. And, you know, we had to open up a disaster recovery center. You know, we had to have, you know, family assistance centers, you know, those types of things like that. Those are for more of the human interests. You know, the capability to meet somebody on the human level, understand what their specific needs are. You know, there's going to be individuals with access and functional needs as well. So making sure that we're tailoring our services to those people. So communicating that to the public, especially if somebody has never gone through that, it's a really, really large and heavy strategy, because you have to work not just with county folks, but you have to work with the hospitals, you have to work with religious groups, you have to work with so many different entities to make sure that everybody is served equally, because at the county, that is our number one goal, is equal opportunity, equal resources, so people can strive in this beautiful, you know, county.
Yeah, the one thing that is common between all disasters, and I said there usually isn't, but there's one thread, and it's those that are access and functional needs or socioeconomically disadvantaged. They're the ones who suffer the most. And our leadership in the county, in the CEO's office, through Board of Supervisors, and at OEM, the message is that that's not our aim. Our aim is, as Charles just said, to help all those in need after a disaster.
I love to hear that. I don't have millions of viewers yet, but we may get there.
We'll get
there. Is there a piece of advice that you would want people generally, regardless of particularly where they live or what the disaster is, what is the best way when something unexpected happens to immediately get that information that you're
I think
putting
we're going to
out?
have the same thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
like
You're the final word on it.
Yeah.
and please add to this, but
Yeah.
Alert SCC,
Yes. Yeah.
alert and warning will be it's a lifesaver.
Alert SCC, that's an app?
So that is
I
our
know it's an
website.
app
Yeah,
because I got it on my phone, but I
Yeah.
want everyone to know.
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
not a specific app. It's an
Oh,
opt-in
okay.
only type of registration.
Yeah.
So
Okay. So
there
how do
is
people opt in?
Yeah, so alertscc.org, that is going to be able to subscribe you to alerts within Santa Clara County. However, it's going to be specifically for your address and your zip code.
So I'm not going to be inundated.
Exactly. And we don't want to
Okay.
oversaturate people with messaging because it can be annoying. So it's
Okay.
only used for professional and life safety reasons. And another thing is as well is that all of the 15 cities have access to this. So we help manage this
Okay.
platform.
Mhm.
But for if you are asking more questions and you live in Sunnyvale about why is Alert SCC important to me,
Mhm.
they have a local emergency management office as well. They can give you the information around why Alert SCC is important for people that live in San Martin or versus Sunnyvale. So Alert SCC, alertscc.org, sign up and it will save your life in an emergency.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much. That may have been the most important bit of information, but this has all been fascinating. I'm so appreciative of both of you for joining me today, but much more significantly for the work that you do. You absolutely have the heart of county government in you, and it's just a delight to talk with you both. I wish you many, many, many uneventful
Yes, thank you.
series of preparations. I'll be right back with just one more thing. And just one more thing. When I was thinking about a disaster and emergency preparedness and engaging with our guests, I kept thinking at the back of my mind that probably no one is better in emergency preparedness than moms of young children. I remember having to have with me at all times extra snacks, meals, water, changes of clothes, toys, all sorts of anticipatory things that may be needed over the course of a day with little children. I think moms tend to be structured, prepared, thinking about all the possible contingencies and trying to get through the day safely and happily with our children. I was definitely that mom when my 3 kids were little, and I wonder if many of you have the same experience too. That is just one more thing.